In this video, I'm going to show you a way that's a little bit more of an old-fashioned way to assemble things, but sometimes you have to revert to things like that. I typically don't use dowels to assemble a face frame. However, there are times where you could use a biscuit joiner, but they don't always, the biscuits are sometimes too big for the face frame. Or you could use pocket hole screws. Sometimes that doesn't apply either. So I'm going to show you how to use this dowel jig. So if you ever run into a situation where you need to use one, you'll know how to do it. Now this is an old Craftsman dowel jig. You probably can't find these anymore because I believe I inherited it from my grandfather. So there are different styles of these out there. They all work similar. The concept behind them is all the same. So what we have on this is we have a dial where we can adjust the hole size by loosening this thumb screw, turning it to whatever size we want. So this size will be determined by the size of dowel that you want to use. Now I have a little bucket of dowels here. It comes with 3 different sizes. So I'll have to decide which size I'm going to use. Most jigs will be like that. Now it might not be a dial, it might be just a straight bar and you have to pick the hole that you want to use. But they'll have different sizes more than likely. Now, if you look closely right here, there is a little marker line right there on this piece of metal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the 2 pieces of wood that I want to join so that they're lined up with each other. I'm going to put them beside each other. We'll line them up, and I'll line that mark with the mark on the piece I'm going to drill the hole into. Now it's important when I do this that I have this set at a depth, and the gauge is right here. I have it to be 3/8 for the center point, but my confidence in it being dead center isn't great. So what I want to do is to make sure that everything lines up correctly is I want to be consistent with how I place the piece in here. So I'm going to determine right now what is going to be the outside of this piece and what is going to be the inside. So I think that this is the nicer side, so it's going to face out. So I'm actually going to take a pencil and just put a little X on the back side. Now I'll know when I go to put this together that that's the back. So these two to go together. So if that's the back side of that one, then this has to be the back side of this one. So this is my piece that I'm going to place in there. I have to determine which is the outside and which is the inside on this. I don't think it really matters. So it's going to be like this. So this is my back side, and this is my back side. Now, the reason I want to do that is I'll always know that I'm going to make that X I just made right there face this side of the jig when I do this and when I do this. So now I'll know that even if I'm not dead center, that those holes will line up. So the next thing I got to do is I've got to mark where I want the dowels to go. So I'm going to line these up. These are 1/4-inch dowels. They're going to go inside of there kind of like that. I got to make sure that I'm close to the center to where I'm not going to split out. So if I'm somewhere in there with that one, I'll be good. And that one's there. I'm somewhere in there with that one, I'll be good. So the key to this is to get this exactly where I want it, then transfer that line onto both pieces. So you can see my lines on here. And you can see my lines in here, they would match. Now, just so I'm going to measure this, just so I have an idea how far down I am with each of these. So it's about 3/4. And that's about a half. So I'm just going to mark these the same way. 3/4 or half from this side, and 3/4 from this side. So that's the marks we started with. This is my other side. There's my X. And I would just transfer the mark once I have it where I want it. Okay. Now, when I go to put this in this jig, I can't see those marks very well. Oh, actually I can. So now I'm going to just line up the jig with the mark. Like so. And clamp it on. Now I got to turn this dial to get to the 1/4. So the 1/4 inch hole is lined up. Well, that's 5/16. Okay, we're going 5/16. This bucket isn't marked, I guessed, and I was wrong. All right, so 5/16 hole is right here, and this dowel fits down in that hole. So now all I gotta do is get a 5/16 drill bit and drill it out. Okay, now I don't want to just start drilling this hole in without knowing how deep to go. So that is, the bit is bottomed out. It's touching the wood right here. So we need to establish how far we want to go into that piece. Now there's my dowel. I want to go about halfway. So you don't want to go less than halfway, because if you go less than halfway, you tap that dowel in and it'll bottom out, and then the other side it'll always have a little bit of a gap because there's not enough clearance for this whole dowel inside of there. So we want to drill it slightly larger than halfway. This dowel is 1.5 inches long. So I want to come up at least 3/4, probably a little more like 7/8. So I want to be 7/8 from the base to the depth of the bit. So I'm going to actually put a piece of tape as a depth marker. So I know if I drill to that tape, I should be good. I'm slightly over halfway through, and then when I make the corresponding drill in the other piece, there should be enough clearance for it to be able to fit in there. So all I'm going to do now is drill it. We'll loosen this up. We'll move it to the other hole, which is a little bit hard to see. You might need to transfer it onto this other side if you can't see it. Should be about right there. Drill again. And we have 2 holes. All right. Now we want to do matching holes. We're just going to do the same thing. I'm actually going to transfer these lines over here. It's just, it's a little easier to see. Now I'm going to line it up just like I did before. I want the marks on the same side that I had the other one. And screw this in. So now I'll just move it, do the same thing, the other hole. And drill it out. Loosen the clamp. And I got 2 matching holes to go with this. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, and then we'll put it together. So that's all there really is to using the dowel jig. Like I said, I have a little bit more to do, but it would just be the same thing that I've already showed you, so we'll cut it off there. I hope this helped you. I hope you learned something that you could use possibly in a future project. And if you have any questions, drop them down there in the comments section and I can try to help. Thanks for watching. Check out a few of these videos. They're going to come up on this next screen, and we'll catch you next week.